Well, it was a pretty decent night for fantasy. It wasn't such a great night for my poor Cowboys, who, yeah, just not good enough. And that's the thing. We're starting so slow during the year. They had a really good run in there, but you have to keep that up. And it's very hard to keep a massive streak going. We saw what, Storm were able to do a couple of years ago. We had the Panthers as well. And they both actually lost at really crucial times. Storm ended up losing in the semis that year. And then so did the Panthers coming into that grand final against the Storm there. So, yeah, it just shows that those streaks are very hard to keep going. And Cowboys, they've run out of puff, really. And it's pretty surprising considering that they've hardly been playing guys like Cotter and Taumalolo like big minutes. And, in this one, you saw Cotter get a decent score and some better minutes. And this one at 59. And that was really just because they needed it. And to be honest with you, they needed it the last month. And they just haven't been playing him those minutes. And we see in Origin, he just plays, 70 plus, usually 80 each and every game. And just doesn't happen for the Cows. But overall, the Sharks are in a much better position coming into this round and into clearly in the top 8 now. They've just stuck into the top 4 before the Storm end up playing, and they're laughing on the coverage there and commentary that everyone should be cheering on, every Sharks fan should be cheering on the Dragons up against the Storm in the last game of the round. There's still some chatter around Munster potentially missing this game, so we are going to have to wait likely until either later today, but definitely tomorrow when they do that final 19 and they take a couple off the interchange there or off their final squads there. But hopefully, I'd imagine it will be pretty big news across the interwebs of Munster being potentially out. So just watch out for that one if you do own him, or if you're looking to trade him in. I probably would just hold off just for that reason there. But so really good scoring in this one. So Hines up to 90. For those that did captain him, congratulations. Very, very good score and likely to beat out Cleary in this one. I believe there was one person in the top 100 that did captain Hines in this one. Toby Rudolph, a massive, massive score at 71. And he's very, very important for the Sharkies going forward and making having a good shot at doing something in this competition come finals time. So him and Hines and Nico had a much better game there. Obviously, just the one missed tackle, no errors in this one, which is a massive improvement from where he's been at. So I personally had Hines and Drinkwater in this one, so very, very happy with where things are at. There were a few that actually traded out Drinkwater last week and a few weeks before, after he had a weaker couple of scores there. And so him at that price, it made a lot of sense to move him on, just because you could sell him at about $8.50 at a peak, and you could straight swap him to a guy that's likely going to hit that 60 average on a regular basis, whether it be Isaiah Yeo, whether people went for him to Latrell, bank some cash to be able to spend that elsewhere as well. But we're very happy that he did come back after their bye, and picked up a 62 in this one with a couple of line breaks. Was 49 in that first half, and then the Cowboys really were pretty poor in that second half, considering they were up 12-6, and then since then 26 unanswered points from the Sharkies. Obviously, things for Drinkwater aren't going to be that great, and when their attack isn't as smooth, he wasn't able to get in space. He picked up another tackle break or so in that second half, but things weren't going his way in that second period. Hazleton, what about the PPM from some of these guys? We had Hazleton with 59 of 37 minutes there, so looking at like a 1.6, 1.7 type of, about there, 1.6-ish PPM. And then you had Royce Hunt, which was well over 2 in his PPM, 49 in 23 minutes. So both scoring tries, both very important players for the Sharkies and the outcome that they're going to have going into finals for the rest of the year. Valame, 55 in this one, so a delightful try as well. He's actually had a really good year, averaging 40 now. He started really well with lots of tries, and since then, he's been on and off, but very big, strong guy. 219 minutes, 8 tackle breaks, exactly what the Cows need here. What about Connor Tracy? He was absolutely everywhere in this one for 51. Very, very dominant here. Big run meters of 273, and it's exactly showing really playing very similar to that of Dylan Edwards and what he offers to a side. Very, very good out of his own half and just getting involved every time they need him, which is really, really good. So 51 points for him. I did see a couple of people bring him in as well. So at 472k to cover, Reece Walsh or an injury to Lemuelu, something like that, he ended up becoming a pretty solid one at 472 with a 51. So well done to him. Did see a couple of people bring in Cotter as well after their bye. So all done for the last 3 rounds and expecting him to play some bigger minutes with the Cowboys needing to win. So I think especially now he should be going pretty nuclear with his minutes over the next few weeks as well, considering the Cows just need to even try and make the finals. And he's a big cog that's important there with his work ethic and his ability to break the line a little bit there as well with his quick feet and quick play the balls. But 49 for him. You'll take it. He's obviously very cheap at 456. It's actually crazy. So he's going to be so cheap for next year. Trindle getting better in that 6 role. Plenty of kick meters for him. So 436 for Trindle there. 234 for Nico. So thankfully with Heinze there, you're just getting a lot of the run meters. And, tackling was there. 23 tackles for 1 miss. Only getting the 21 points there in the tackles is great. And obviously 6 goals to boot from that. So that's the good news, is that he's running the footy more, but Trindle there with lots of kick meters taking away from Heinze. But it obviously didn't matter here, getting a 90 points from there. Lucille Lua ended up going off in this one. I believe Helam Luki came on for the last 15 minutes, if I'm correct there. No, he played 26. I can't remember the exact trade off from that point, but 41 points for him in the 65 minutes. Yeah, you would have expected a 50 or so from that 80. But wasn't to be if you're playing him and looping. Hopefully you were able to loop a couple of these lower guys, the sort of the 40s and the like there. Blake Brayley at 41 with 7 missed tackles, unfortunately, for him, with a nice try assist there. Robson still hasn't hit a 50 since round 14, which we spoke about sort of 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I just couldn't push him as a buy to anyone, and it's crazy how cheap he's going to get. He'll be down closer to 550 after this one, and a 48.9 average shows that, with how low he's been scoring, he hasn't hit a 50, as I said, since then, more than 10 rounds now, that he's still able to have an average so high. So it's just the missed tackles that's really killing him. He's still running the footy okay. Like most weeks he's 40 to 80 kind of meters and getting some tackle breaks for the most part. It's just, if you're getting around that 40 tackles or 38, 39, 40, 44 in this one, but missing 6, there's just no chance of getting anywhere close to a 50 unless you're scoring tries or setting him up, which just isn't happening. Britton Nikora, this is a bit of a tough one. He's had a very poor last month, really. He's down to 650k and he'll be lower than that after this, unfortunately. With him there, 39 tackles for 3 misses. He does seem to be a guy that's about a 3 to 4 miss type of player, but no real attacking stats at all. 1 tackle break for 91 meters there and 10 in the negative. So yeah, I think with Nikora, if you can look to potentially try and loop him on a week-to-week basis, similar to that with like Isaiah Papali'i, who's a bit up and down as well, that these edges sometimes, and we know Nikora is one of those guys that has never been that out-and-out edge gun, that this can happen. And he go on little spurts, especially when the Sharkies were doing really well and winning. He was a guy that was getting involved with plenty. But they are going out the back a fair bit more with Ramian and also Sione Katoa, whereas previously they were just going straight to Nikora, and he was going a little bit under the radar, but he's been in the league a long time now, and I know teams, for the first half of the year, they weren't marking up on him well enough, and there was also those times where he was getting fairly lucky and he was getting a try right at the end off a kick, or, the Sharks were kind of dominating and then just one last play and he'd get a nice line break try, and that just hasn't happened the last few weeks, and that's showing in his scoring for sure. Jack Williams, a really important player for this Sharks side, but Cam McInnes, finally, good for my side, obviously, not for those that have brought him in, and he's about 25% owned now, I think, across sort of the top 100, top 1,000, and the 36 for him. The 51 minutes was about where he'd been getting for a long time, and thankfully for them, they were able to score some tries across that first sort of 15, 20 minutes of the second half. He didn't play the first full 40, given it was fairly tough there at 12-6 for a lot of it, and then 18-12 heading into the break there. But 4 missed tackles for him was a bit high, and then the penalty as well, and he had 7 tackle breaks last week. So this is a week, unfortunately, that could come from McInnes, and just the PPM was a lot lower than we would have expected, even with those minutes. Like usually it'd be about a 45 or so in those minutes, and it wasn't to be in this one. You definitely, at least with him, he didn't get concussed, there was no injury and the like. If you brought him in this week, it's tough. If you brought him in a few weeks ago, you've got some really big scores, so you aren't going to be too displeased with that. Jesse Ramian with 33 in this one in the 80 minutes, and he absolutely dropped that sitter. Oh, that was such a terrible pass. Right to left there from the Cows straight into his grasp, and he just put it down, and that's pretty well like it was about a 20 point, close to 20 point turnaround. He gets the error instead of going about 80 meters, 70, 80 meters there, and touching down for a try and picking up 15 or so points. So yeah, that's great news for us that don't own him. But 33 again, way better than with Lamuelu last week with 25 and Penasini and these kind of guys here, Averillo. If you're looking at that, again, unfortunate if you did bring him in this week, but I suppose you would have expected this to be a closer game and he'd have to score tries to be able to go really well. Wade Graham, 32, did pick up a try in this one off a kick, which was nice, but 6 missed tackles and an error, a penalty, and inside 10 there. Just cut his points down to what they normally could be, but this is more of what is expected around that 30 mark, anywhere between 25 and 36 is kind of the range we're looking at with Graham at this point. And then looking down the line there, Felt with the 24, a bit of a low one from where he's been averaging of recent time. Katoa as well, a bit of a low one, 22. Lukey there with a 14 in his 26 minutes. And Matt Moylan came on for 7 minutes for 2. I was worried to loop in the end, guys, so I just played Drinkwater straight out. Thankfully, it worked out well in the end. I didn't have to worry about that. And I think I'm going to hold off on trades as well for those that are interested. I think I'm just going to try and loop Penasini in the 5 tonight. And then if he doesn't go well, I'll just play Max King straight out. And especially with Colquhoun being 18th man, there was a worry that, like last week, there was a couple of times where the 18th man was activated, and that was a worry for me. So I didn't want to pop in the 4 slot or in the mid straight out just for that reason. So thankfully, he didn't get on the park. We don't have to worry about that for those that did. And then I got Valance as well, who's in the extended. And if there's something happens to that outside backs, he could come in. And so I was like, oh, maybe I don't have anyone that's actually going to loop. So, I went a bit safe, went Drinkwater, just straight out, which worked out well. But Talakai, low one as well, 18 for his 74 minutes. Not great. But that's it, guys. That's where we're at. Granville, back to low minutes and low points. So, he was a fun one to own for people as well. That's that video, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. And, enjoy the 2 Friday night games tonight, where we've got the Warriors up against Manly. Should be fun. I'm excited for that. And hopefully DCE can go well. And then I've got Penasini looping in that position. And then obviously Hopgood, we'd like a decent game out of him. And then Teddy and also Manu. So very, very important games. The next 3, especially coming into the Tigers game with my Bateman and Papali'i. And it gets a little bit less fun from there with a lot of the higher ownership players coming from that point on. Good luck, guys. See you later.